Okay, so linear word systems word problems. I just said we're going to do let statements, therefore statements, maybe a check as well. And for each of these, because the unit is called linear systems, we're going to make sure to create two equations. So it says create a linear system to represent each problem algebraically. And some of these problems, you guys, you can probably figure out without doing any math. Like you can actually probably just reason it out. But if you do that, then you're actually not creating a linear system and you would not actually get full marks for it. Okay, so let's look at question number 1. It says, the sum of two numbers is 255. What does the word sum mean? Sophia? Yeah, sum is when you add up two numbers and that number is going to be 255. And then we're going to have a smaller number and a larger number. So we're going to say when the smaller number is subtracted from the larger number, the result is 39. Find the numbers. So we're going to begin by writing a let statement. I always use X and Y because I'm super boring. If you want to use other letters, you can go ahead and do that. But what do you think our let statement should be? Like we have two numbers, Najib? Something even simpler than that. Samira?
When you do like let X equal the smaller number and then let Y equal the bigger number?
I really like that. Let's keep it super simple. So I'm going to let X, and I think Samira said let X be the smaller number, so we'll stick with that, and let Y be the larger number. So we begin by writing, question? Not in your let statement. Your let statement needs to be super simple. You just need to tell me what the letter X stands for and what the letter Y stands for. And then when we get to writing our equations, then we can get a little fancier. So I'm going to say let X represent the smaller number and let Y represent the larger number. Okay, once we've written our let statements, now we're ready to actually start making our equations, and we need two of them. And I always say the first sentence gives you the first equation, the second sentence gives you the second equation. So look at the first sentence. It says, the sum of two numbers is 255. How can you take those words and turn them into something mathematical? What can you write for that? Krishna? Perfect. Yep, the small number plus the larger number has to equal to 255. So we're going to go X plus Y is equal to 255. All right, the next equation is a little bit trickier. It says when the smaller number is subtracted from the larger number, the result is 39. So we know it's a subtraction, but are we going to write X minus Y is equal to 39? Or are we going to write Y minus X is equal to 39? What do you think? In this case, the wording is really important. Hamangi? Yeah, it says the smaller is subtracted from the larger. So you're going to write the larger number first, which is Y. And then you're going to subtract the smaller number from it, which is X. And that's going to equal to 39. Okay, how do we solve two systems of equations? Well, this is what we've been working on the last couple of days. We're either going to use substitution or elimination to solve this. What do you guys want to use for this one? Substitution or elimination? Yeah. Sure, let's do substitution. So I'm just gonna, let's rearrange maybe the second equation. So I'm gonna rearrange the second equation. And if you guys wanna use, if someone wants to use elimination, go ahead and do it and we'll see if we get the same answer. So I'm gonna rearrange this. So it's gonna be Y is equal to 39 plus X. I'm gonna substitute this into the first equation. And by the way, I like to label this number 1 and number 2, just so we know the equations are separate. So I rearranged equation number 2 here. And now my instructions are going to be sub 2 into 1. So when I do that, I'm going to take equation number 1, which is x plus y is equal to 255. And I'm going to substitute this y into right here. So it's going to be x plus bracket 39 plus x is equal to 255. And you guys are all really good at solving equations. So go ahead and solve this and we'll see if we get the same answer. Okay, so we got x is equal to 108 for our x, and now I'm going to go ahead and solve for y. And to solve for y, all you're going to do is you're going to put your x into this equation right here. So y is equal to 39 plus x, which is going to be 39 plus 108. And what did you get for that again? 147. Okay, now here's the thing. With word problems, we also need to do a really quick check. The check does not have to be like an official left side, right side check. I call it an informal check. You just want to make sure that the numbers you got make sense. So again, don't waste your time. I mean, if you wanted, you could do a left side, right side check and make it super formal, but you don't have to do that. You can actually just get away with doing it informally. So I'll show you how I do an informal check and you can see if it works for you. Okay, but make sure you include a check somewhere on your page. So for my check, I'm going to look at the first equation. It says the sum of the two numbers is 255. So I'm just going to add up the two numbers, 147 plus 108, and I'm going to see what I get. And I end up getting 255. So that first sentence works out. And that's all I really care to see. Like I said, I don't care for a formal left side, right side check. I just want to make sure that you're actually checking your work and seeing if your numbers make sense. Because if you ended up getting like 2,080 and then 1,500,000, obviously those numbers don't add up to 255. You've done something wrong. Go and check your work. The second check is when the smaller is subtracted from the larger, the result is 39. So let's take the larger number, 147, and let's subtract 108, and let's see what we get. So we have 9, and then we have 3, and then we have 0. So it ends up being 39, which is also correct. Does that make sense, you guys? Everyone see what I did there? Angelique? I'll check your work. And then finally, what do we need to end off this question? What are we forgetting? Sohan? Yeah, a therefore statement. So it says, the question says find the numbers, and we're going to say, therefore, the numbers are 108 and 147. And if you wanted to be a little bit more specific, you don't have to be. You could say the larger number is 147, the smaller number is 108. Do you guys remember what the perimeter of any shape means? What are we talking about when we say perimeter? Angelique? Yeah, it's you add up all of the sides of the outside of the shape to get the perimeter. So this question is talking about the perimeter of a rectangle. It says the perimeter of a rectangle is 46. That means when you add up the length, the other length, the width, the other width, you're going to end up getting 46 centimeters. What are its dimensions? Dimensions is just saying what is the length, what is the width. If the length is 4 centimeters less than twice the width. And that's what I call a tongue twister, because you really have to think about it. You really have to read it a couple of times to understand what's happening. So to do this question, I'm going to draw us a little picture so we can see if things make sense to us. Okay, so let's draw a rectangle first. And you guys probably remember from elementary or middle school, when you have a shape like this, what do you call the larger side? Hershey? Yeah, the larger side is always the length and the smaller side is always the width. And just to make things easier, we're not going to use X and Y. I mean, you could if you want. I'm going to use L and W. So I'm going to call this L and I'm going to call this W. And the reason I wrote it cursive is because if I wrote just like a straight L, you would think it's a number 1. So I'm just trying to make it super obvious that this is the letter L. So now that I've done that, I'm ready to define my terms. And I know that L stands for length and W stands for width. So let's go ahead and write that. We're going to say, let L represent the length. And then I'm going to write, let W represent the width. Okay, by the way, before we go on to the next question, I just want to show you my marking scheme so you can get an idea of how you would mark this. Your let statement, you guys, is going to be worth half a mark, and the therefore statement is going to be worth half a mark. So that's a very easy 1 mark as long as you don't forget your let statement and your therefore statement. Make sure that your let statement is related to the question. You can't just say like let X represent number of aliens in the world. It has to be related to what you're talking about. And make sure your therefore statement answers the question. And then I would give you a mark for each of these equations. So 3, and then I would give you a mark for calculating X, another mark for calculating the Y. So a question like this would be worth 5 marks. I don't usually give a question for a check. However, a mark for a check. However, if you forget the check, I do take off half a mark. Okay, so a question like this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks, making sure the check is there. But 1 out of those 5 marks is a very easy let and therefore statement mark. So make sure you include those so you can get those easy marks. Samira? Yeah, sure. Okay, so this one right here, right? Okay, so we've already said L represents the length and W represents the width. And remember, we need to figure out 2 equations. So let's look at the first statement. It says the perimeter of the rectangle is 46 centimeters. Perimeter means you're adding up this plus this plus this plus this. And if you want, you can put an L here and you can put a W here. So how would I put this into the first statement into mathematical terms? Jennifer? Yeah, sure. So the first equation would just be L plus W plus W is equal to 46 centimeters. Another way to write this, to consolidate it, is you could just write 2L plus 2W is equal to 46, right? You're just collecting like terms. Like you have an L and an L, that makes 2 L's, a W and a W, that makes 2W, 46. These are exactly the same thing. And choose whatever method you find easier. Does that make sense so far? We're all good with that? Yeah, okay. Now the second part of the question, like I said, it's a little bit of a tongue twister. You're really gonna have to think about it. This question says, and by the way, this is I'm gonna call this equation number 1. What are the dimensions? So basically that question's asking you what is the length and what is the width if the length is 4 centimeters less than twice the width. Think about it and tell me an equation that you could possibly form using this information. Angelique, what do you think? Two W, okay, close, not quite. Let's get some other suggestions. Freya? Yep, and you got it. The length, L, is, whenever you see an is, put an equal sign down. It means it's saying equal sign. So the length is means L is equal to 4 centimeters less. So whenever I see 4 centimeters less, I know I'm writing that second. Remember, we talked about that in the review unit we did. And twice the width means 2W. So that's going to be our official second equation. And you know how, if you're wondering like, how would I have known that? To be honest, for questions like this, you just have to practice because every question is going to look a little bit different. And there's just no way for you to prepare. Like these tongue twisters, we could put anything. As long as I'm going to give you a bunch of questions, try those, try the textbook questions. Once you've done enough of them, you do get pretty good at it. But it's one of those like practice makes perfect type of things. Do you guys want to eliminate or substitute? Hiroshi? Yeah, this one's a really easy substitution, right? Look at our first equation. It's 2L plus 2W is equal to 46. Look at our second equation is L is equal to 2W minus 4. I'm just going to plug this into this and I'm going to try to solve. So let's do that work over maybe here. So I'm going to say sub 2 into 1. I guess I don't really have a lot of space, so I'm gonna kind of just solve for L over here. So I'm gonna go solve for L. By the way, I do want to mention this question is a measurement question. So you need to make sure your units have centimeters in them. So anytime you can put units down, make sure your answer has the centimeters in it. Okay, so we're gonna go L is equal to 2W minus 4, which is gonna be 2 times 9 minus 4, 18 minus 4, and I think most of you guys got this already. L is going to be equal to 14 centimeters. I'm missing I haven't done 2 things. What am I going to do next? I'm going to do a logical check. So it doesn't have to be a left side equals right side check. It just has to be something where I can check to see if it makes sense. So here's what my check would look like. And maybe I'll just do it. Maybe I'll just do it over here. I'm going to write the word check. I'm actually just going to draw my shape real quick. And I'm going to put in the values. So I know the length is 14 and the width is 9. It's coming up. It's just lagging a little bit. So what am I going to do? Well, let's see if the perimeter actually equals 255. I'm going to add up 14 plus 14 plus 9 plus 9 and see what I get. So 14 plus 14, 9 plus 9 is 18. Let's add all of those up. 8 plus 8 is 16. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, the perimeter is 46, which is what I end up getting. So that's correct. And then the second part of the equation was the length is what did it say? The length is 4 centimeters less than twice the width. So twice the width is 9 times 2, which is 18. And is the length 4 centimeters less than 18? Yes, it is. So that makes sense to me as well. So just a logical check. The check is mostly for you to make sure it's right. And we're going to do a therefore statement. The dimensions are, you can write length is 14 and width is 9, or you can just write 14 centimeters by 9 centimeters. Because dimensions are often written as like length times width. Does that make sense as well? Yeah, everyone gets the procedure, let statement, therefore statement, check, make sure you have 2 equations. Okay, so that's actually the end of the lesson. Let me tell you what you guys are gonna be doing. You're gonna be working in groups because word problems definitely require a little bit of group work. And I want you in class to work on the second sheet, the number word problems. So you have part A and the solutions are there. And then for part B, you have 6 word problems, and all of the solutions are written right underneath them. So see how it says like W is equal to all that? Those are the solutions. Some of the questions are challenging, and I want to take up those challenging questions. So maybe I will give you about half an hour to work on it, and maybe we'll take up a question today, and then we can do a couple more questions tomorrow. Okay, and then there are textbook questions as well, but I would say leave those textbook questions for home tonight. Just focus on this handout right now.